It's Mira Business FM. It's the morning drive with me, Tim Elliott, and we're going to move towards movies now. Just a reminder, you could be watching us at mirabusiness.fm on the website or on YouTube or streaming across most social media platforms. To get in touch, info@mira.fm or whatsapp.mira.fm is the quickest way to get the WhatsApp up and running and contact us in the studio. Now, movies and more. Dr. David Tully is head of media and film at Middlesex University in Dubai. Nice to have a professor in the studio. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. It's very nice to meet you.
Very good to have you here. Now, you're here ostensibly to talk about Warner Brothers Discovery. We may get to that point. We may meander. Who knows? But this is such a big deal. The movie and TV empire is for sale. Paramount, Skydance, Comcast, and Netflix all interested amongst others. But what might it mean for movies and TV as well as for our screens in this region? So let's just set this, David. One of the biggest media conglomerates in the US, favorites like The Sopranos to Bugs Bunny, incredibly valuable IP like DC Comics, Superman, Batman, the Harry Potter franchises. At the moment, they own CNN, HBO, the Discovery Channel, TNT Sports. Whoever wins out here will be Warner's, I think it's the fourth owner in 7 years from memory. Before we get into the details and taking all of that into account, great deal to discuss. Your initial thoughts, first of all.
My initial thoughts are it's just more of circling the wagons because the Titanic is going down.
Okay.
And in the end, I mean, not to cut off all conversation, but my cynical take is it doesn't really matter in the end who's going to get it. If it's going to be Comcast who wins, Netflix, it's probably going to be Paramount for reasons we can talk about.
It looks that way, yeah.
Everybody's circling the wagons. All these old empires that had their separate fiefdoms are coming together as one big Uber studio because the entire industry is collapsing.
Okay, so we've got a number of suitors in the frame. We've mentioned them. Who wants it and why? Let's just run through, starting with Paramount Skydance. What do they get from it?
CNN, apparently. If I was just reading a story in the Hollywood Reporter this morning that their big angle and the reason they have the advantage over Comcast and Netflix is that the Comcast and Netflix have zero interest in CNN. Mm-hmm. It's seen as a dead horse. But the Ellisons, the father and son who now own Paramount, the tech guy, Larry and David, they want CNN. And that's giving them the edge. They'll take the whole package, not part of the package.
I just realized it's Larry and David. There's humor in that somewhere. I'd never seen that before.
Sing the theme song. And Trump is big buddies with them. He had them to dinner at the White House, at the Saudi dinner last week. He's very happy with that because CNN's one cause in the world is to attack Trump, no matter what he does.
Yeah.
And so if they take it over, they'll turn it into a pro-Trump
Well, there will be
outlet.
a change there for sure, won't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So Comcast, what would Comcast get from a deal like this? What's their
Comcast
interest?
is more about sports. So they would get the sports package, and that's what they're interested in. Netflix is interested in the movies and the Bugs Bunny. Paramount is interested in everything. So that's why they're seen as the front runner right now.
I mean, there's some interest from this region as well, isn't there? Rumors in U.S. media for ages that the Saudi Public Investment Fund is considering a bid. And
well, the rumor is that they're bidding with Paramount. They're in it together.
It's not a separate bid.
That's
is it
what
with?
I'm hardly an insider and know, but from what I've read about it, my research, it seems to be that they'd be partnering up with Paramount, with the Ellisons.
Okay. Well, stranger things have happened, I suppose. But I mean, even if they don't make a bid and they do, move in with Paramount Skydance, it certainly is the point, isn't it, that there would be some influence from this region.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
forward.
They wouldn't do it just for kicks. They'd want to have influence on the content for sure.
Okay, so. This is essentially, all right, circling the wagons, but the other way of looking at this is it's industry consolidation. So fewer buyers per project, restructured media landscape, assets like, I don't know, HBO, the studio being sold off, that huge library being absorbed in some way.
Warner Brothers made this huge show of merging with Discovery 2 years ago, and now they're falling apart.
It's very recent. And
nothing seems to be working for anybody. They're consolidating, they're coming together, but even that's not working. And The biggest reason is, and this comes back to what you and I were talking about a few minutes ago before we went on the air, that the biggest problem with show business is that it's show and business. It's creative and it's the bean counters. And they never see things the same way. They never have the same priorities, and yet they need each other. And no one in 100 years of movie industry has found a way to make that really work.
It's so interesting, this, because Warner Brothers is what, 1923, I think it was founded, the Four
Yep.
Brothers, so just over 100 years old, a huge name. Particularly for me as a kid growing up with Bugs Bunny, that always kind of stands out to me. But there's this huge library. Content at the moment is king. Everybody talks about content. We've got a
And
million
nobody
and
makes
one.
good content.
Well, exactly. It's a bizarre thing that
And it's
we
not bizarre. It's the bean
can't make it-
counters are owning the show. They're running the show. The
Really?
big news is corporate mergers, not creativity. That's right there. That's you put your finger right on what the problem is.
But you know what it's like. Let the creative people run free, and they run a little
but
bit
they
too
won't
free.
do it. They're too scared. It's a collapsing business, and they keep shooting themselves in the foot. They're making content that nobody wants to watch.
Okay.
And when was the last time you and your family or your friends sat down to Netflix and said, "Let's just watch something"? And you scroll and scroll for hours, and finally say, "Oh, let's get dinner." Forget about it. It
Do you know
happens
what?
to everybody.
It rarely happens. I got to be honest with the streaming platforms that I think, I really want to watch that season. I don't really binge watch stuff, but I
Yeah.
can't remember the last time I binge watched anything
Or exactly
on a platform.
Nobody's satisfied with the content that's coming out. And I teach film. I can't remember the last time I went to a movie theater, and I more and more I watch films before 1950 or so. I think I've lost interest in anything new coming out. It's not sheer perversity on my part. I cannot be interested, and everybody says that.
Anecdotally, that's probably true. But what was the last thing you went to the cinema and you thought that was a real experience? Because I could quote you, Oppenheimer was the last thing that I saw in a movie theater where I thought, that was a proper big screen experience. But aside from that,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly. A friend forced me to go see Sinners in the spring because he said, "You've got to see the music. You've got to see the production numbers. It's not about that it's a horror movie. It's that the music is beautiful, and you've got to see it on the big screen." And he was right. It was great. It was great. And once upon a time, studios turned out tons of product like Sinners. Original IP, not a remake, not a sequel, not a prequel, et cetera, et cetera. But that's very rare now, and it seems becoming increasingly rare. They only want the tried and true. So I often think, yes, a big lavish roadshow extravaganza like Christopher Nolan specializes in these days, like Oppenheimer, that's good. You're not going to get a lot of those, but they seem to want nothing but those. And if you don't have a good idea behind it, the biggest production in the world is going to fall flat. I mean, look at all those DC movies like The Flash. Remember that? No, nobody. You don't remember. Nobody does.
I'm trying to think if I do.
It was unwatchable. It was on Netflix, and even my daughter and I got through about 5 minutes of it. It's unwatchable, and yet they must have thrown so much money at that thing.
well, I mean, the marketing budgets alone are it's just eye-watering. Because these are all global releases, of course.
They're making product that nobody wants to see.
What do people want then?
Though that's a very good question, and I think only when you give absolute creativity will you find when you give creatives full sway will you discover that. I don't think there's a formula, and that's also what drives the bean counters crazy. It's so unpredictable. Sinners wasn't reinventing the wheel. It was a good old-fashioned vampire movie. It was very similar to that old George Clooney movie From Dusk Till Dawn. Pretty much the same plot. But it wasn't a sequel or prequel. It had great blues music. People showed up for it. They loved it. Even Wicked. Wicked is not exactly an obscure title, but it's a musical. It's from Broadway. It's not a superhero movie. It's not a remake. It's not a prequel. It's at least something slightly different if you hadn't had a chance to go to Broadway and see it.
It's interesting, because, movie theatres have had this great resurgence over the last, 15, 20 years, generally. And it is an experience that most people, whether it's families or date nights, whatever it is, we like that again. And yet we're not getting the movies that appeal, or are we?
When you say resurgence, do you say people are going? Because they're not. They're not going.
Well, perhaps I'm saying that because I'm told that's the case.
Is
Is it not the case?
Well, I don't go too often, so I can't give you a first-hand account. But
I think you're supposed to say that I go very often.
I know
film
I'm supposed to
person.
go very often, but I don't. And I think if I don't, I'm sure other people who aren't teaching film or interested in film go even less. And by all accounts, that's true. And this is reading the trades, reading the grosses. People are not going. Superman was one that came out last summer.
Yeah.
This is a perfect, for me, I brought up to my students recently as a perfect example of everything that's wrong with the industry. Not that the film was awful. I mean, I watched it and you forgot it before it was even over. It was just generic. It was wallpaper.
Generic,
But
okay.
it was fine. Yeah, whatever. But they expected it to be a massive hit. They expected it to go easily over $1 billion. Apparently, it made less than $500,000. It was a clear warning sign. Audiences are no longer interested in this sort of film because it wasn't even an awful film. It was just as I said, it was generic.
Generic and average. Okay.
So less than half of what they thought, they immediately greenlit and rushed into production a sequel. They don't know what they're doing. The movie and TV industry right now reminds me of I often talk about the restaurant industry as an example. In my younger days working as a waiter, one thing I've noticed in restaurants is that if a restaurant opened and it wasn't doing well, it had two choices: dig in its heels and keep serving the same thing,
Yep.
or change the menu. The ones that changed the menu succeeded. The ones that dug in their heels died. And Hollywood right now is like a restaurant that's digging at its heels. You're gonna like superhero movies because we don't know what else to make.
Yeah, well, I mean that's a particular bugbear of mine. But that's just a personal thing, and I figure, I'm just a grumpy old guy. I'm not the target audience, but
There is no target audience anymore.
I really don't need another superhero movie.
And flashback. If you go through the movie history over the past time, it's 100 years roughly of movie history.
Yeah, yeah.
Warner Brothers is one of the first, but starts around 1915 as an industry. This story repeats again and again with westerns, with musicals. When they find a product the audience likes, they flood the market until the audience is sick of it.
Yeah.
They're doing it again.
Yeah.
And the other times. The big thing that happened in the 1950s, of course, the biggest threat to movies was television. But the studios changed from being factories to being distribution agents, distribution models.
Right.
And they chugged along for another half a century. They got a new lease on life, especially because of cable. Cable propped them up, but now cable's fallen apart. They've fallen apart with streaming. Streaming is the challenge, the biggest challenge since television to movies, and this time they don't seem to be finding a way to survive.
Okay. So, is there a way forward? Because I feel like this is a doom and gloom discussion now.
It's a doom and gloom discussion for the old model, but everybody loves stories. And this is what I always tell my students.
Yeah.
People want to hear and see a good story. If you provide the content and you're good at providing the content, they'll show up. The challenge now is how do you provide the content? There's so many platforms out there. The biggest problem is how to make money out of them. And you need to make the money to make the product too. So it's, nobody's answered it yet. And I do think, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to wrap that up, that movies are hit now with what the music industry was hit with about 20 years ago. And the way the music industry evolved was Spotify. Now everybody has Spotify. Movies need a Spotify. They do not need a million different platforms to choose from, so that you have to subscribe to HBO to watch one show. You have to subscribe to Disney to watch another show.
Oh, well, this is the other thing. There are far too many apps, far too many passwords to remember, far too many options now. There has to be an easier way. Well, in that case, Netflix are looking at this as a potential acquisition. Is that an answer? Is that potentially?
Will Netflix become Spotify? Maybe. It's a possibility if they absorb Disney and Warner Brothers and all the other platforms. Yes. And
well, just with this, we Warner Brothers and Discovery, though, that's a reasonably strong network. It's a step in possibly the right direction.
Yeah, it is. For me, and I'm no expert in this again, but I see the only way forward is to have a Spotify of visual content, the same way we have Spotify for audio content. Now, the kicker for that, for the creatives, is if you were a rock star 40, 50 years ago, you made money off of albums. Now, if you want to be a musician, you have to go on the road. That's the only way you make money, because you're not going to make it from anything you record. No. You can't take a movie on the road, unfortunately, not as an individual. So if you make movies, how do you make money? That isn't solved by a Spotify answer.
Yeah, movies are very much kind of cultural phenomenon, or very often very much cultural. They're kind of locally cultural in so many ways. There aren't that many. Well, like no, I guess there are many that do, but
Fewer and fewer,
it's a
weirdly enough.
splintered industry, isn't it? I
Yes,
suppose.
it is. And it's a splintered industry, but no matter where you are in the world, you're going to need a team. It's never
Yes.
going to be the vision of one person. And if you're a musician, you get a guitar, you go on a stage, and you can do your songs. But if you've got a movie script, you need to get a ton of people together, and that's
It's a different proposition.
it
for
is.
Sure. Let's take the HBO as an example here for just for the moment. Shows on home box office are known for or renowned for being high quality. I think of The Sopranos as the main thing. For example, it's the first thing that comes to mind. If a company like Netflix or Paramount buys them as part of this overall deal. What do you? I know what you're going to. I'm not even looking at you because I know what you're thinking. But in terms of the quality of your favorite drama, are you looking? Are they going to be better or worse?
Oh, I think they're going to be worse.
That's what I'm.
I think
That's what I
HBO was a
thinking.
much smaller entity, not
Yeah.
part of a giant conglomerate back then. And it was a time when HBO was feeling the heat from DVDs, so it could take the risk on generating new content that was good. It had to take a risk
Yeah.
because it had a lot at stake. And so it did create a creative revolution in television with The Sopranos. You're right to think of that. That was a show that was a benchmark or a quality leap forward for writing and directing.
I mean, to me, it's the single show to me that when somebody says, "Oh, what's your favorite TV show?" You know that question it's always my go-to.
I think for me personally, it would be Breaking Bad because Breaking Bad built on what Sopranos did
That's
and
in the
stayed
list.
good all the way.
Yeah.
Whereas Sopranos, jumped the shark a few times here and there and lost the plot. But I think Breaking Bad stayed consistently good till the end, but it wouldn't have existed but for The Sopranos.
Yeah.
So there is that.
And shows like The Wire, and I suppose there are others, and we will get texts shouting at us for missing some. I'm sure.
There's others out there. But, to answer your question, there's no, and this is also what drives the accountants crazy when they get into show business, there's no science, there's no way to predict what's going to happen. But it does seem increasingly, as the Titanic is sinking, as the waters are rising and they're coming together, the quality is palpably getting worse. They're playing it safer and safer. There's fewer and fewer movies. They're more and more generic.
Yeah, I'm with you. So this is not there is no science to this. There is art here. It's a bit like it's alchemy, really, isn't it?
It is.
I don't
It's a good
quite
word for
know
it.
how you. There is no such thing really as a surefire hit.
William Goldman,
Anymore.
I don't know if you've ever heard of it. He was a famous screenwriter who had a career for many years. Wrote Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid and
I know him,
all
yeah.
these legends. And at the end of his career, he said, if there's one thing I've learned in this business, it's that nobody knows anything. That was the end result of his wisdom.
We're not getting very far forward with this interview, are we, really? Who are the winners? Who are the losers?
I think what we've established is that the old model is in trouble. In the same way it was in the 50s from television, it is from streaming now. But the way they survived the studio, and we're talking about the studios now, the way they survived before was to become distribution, not factory.
Yep.
But there's no need for that distribution anymore because of the very foe that is undermining them, which is streaming.
One thing that I do think we're going to see is things like theme parks. We've got the Warner Brothers theme park in Abu Dhabi. I guess a sale like this could mean we see more DC Comics, Harry Potter attractions.
Well, that's
perhaps in this
problematic. I
region.
mean, just that particular one, in a couple of years, Batman and Superman are public domain. So they're not even very valuable to anybody buying Warner Brothers right now because in a few years, you'll be able to make your own Batman movie and not have to pay anybody.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's almost 100 years since they were invented, and the copyright expires, and there's nothing they can do about that.
Okay, so what do? Start a franchise and try and hook people in before that happens? Or,
Yes, you get spin-off characters that Batman knows that people love, and then you keep going with those movies.
The Penguin was very good.
I didn't see it.
With Colin
But yes,
Farrell.
I heard it was very good.
That was very good.
I just don't understand. I also, and I know it's a very unpopular view, I don't like the Christopher Nolan Batman movies because I just don't understand taking these things too seriously.
Oh, you may need to wash your mouth out with soap and water, David. I'm not sure you can say
He's
things
still
like
a guy
that.
who dresses up like a bat. And everybody takes him very seriously in those films.
When you put it that way, you make a good point. But you got to be careful because Farage, who's working well, that's actually a missile system. So I'd move if I was you.
Just all I'd say is watch the old 60s show. That's how to do Batman.
Oh, I am so with you. That was Saturday mornings in my youth. Here's a question for you from somebody. Sophie, realistically, how will this Warner Brothers Discovery acquisition impact the phenomenon of subscriber fatigue? And should we expect a great content migration where key HBO and DC content suddenly becomes exclusive to a different, potentially more expensive platform in the next, how long could it be? 12, 18 months, however long it is.
I think the short answer is yes. That's when I say circling the wagons, it's trying to get more and more IPs protected, and you got to pay more because they're more exclusive. So, which means that everyone, I do not use a dodgy box, and because I love this business and I want to support it, but I know that most people in the world do, and more people are going to do it. This is not a way to, this making them high-end and expensive apps is not the way to do it.
There's got to be some kind of aggregation in somewhere, some kind of cooperation sharing agreement. This has to be. Because I can't keep signing up for stuff.
No, and you hear that from everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to subscribe to Disney and pay $20 a month for mostly unwatchable stuff because you can watch one thing, and I'm not even sure what on Disney I would want to watch at this point. Because they already absorbed Marvel and DC and Star Wars and killed those. But they don't, but again, in a way, the bean counters in their Malibu mansions don't really care about the bad movies they're making from Star Wars and bad shows. They care, you put your finger on it, the theme parks. That generates so much more income for the corporate HQ and the shareholders than any movies or TV show is going to do. So that's just a sort of a distraction.
Well, the other side to that is as well, that's still a movie experience. It's just not the movie that you're experiencing anymore, is it? You can still spin it in that way as well.
Yeah, you can go on a ride and remember the movies you loved as a youth and not have to care about the terrible shows they're putting on right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot more to discuss here. There really is. Quickly before we go, this is just personal interest. Favorite movie? Do you have one? Is there one at the top of the list? Could you pull one from?
I always tell my students the most perfect film ever made is Jaws.
Jaws is a great film.
But it also began the whole blockbuster era that destroyed Hollywood in the long run. So it has a lot to answer for, but it's not, you can't hold it personally responsible.
Well, also not great for sharks.
Oh, no. That's also, Peter Benchley regretted ever writing it.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Not his bank account, but for what he did to the sharks. He did regret it before he died, he said. Also, I would give a shout out to, I saw a fantastic film the other night, The Seventh Victim, 1943, Val Lewton, RKO. Black and white. Nobody watches these movies anymore. Best movie I've seen in years.
There you go. All right, then. That's a recommendation for a Monday morning or just into the afternoon. Dr. David Tully, head of media and film, is a professor at Middlesex University in Dubai. We're going to have to get you back. We've got to get you back in.
I'd love to.
Love to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Mira Business FM.